You know how everyone says an apple a day keeps the doctor away,
Right.
right? And we're always told, like, all fruit is just plain good for you. Well, what if some of those choices, the ones that seem super healthy, could actually be subtly working against your body as you get older, especially when it comes to things like your strength, your mobility? It's kind of a surprising thought, isn't it? Challenges what we've always believed.
It absolutely is surprising for many people, and it's the perfect way to start our deep dive today. We're really stepping into the world of geriatric health, which is, well, complex and often misunderstood.
Exactly. And our mission here today, it isn't just to list facts. It's more about cutting through all that noise, the overload of health information out there. We really want to empower you listening right now with insights that are backed by science, things that can genuinely make a difference. We'll explore some, well, frankly, surprising facts, maybe even counterintuitive ones, and offer practical steps you can actually take to support your long-term health, your independence. Addressing those concerns many older adults in the U.S. have, but maybe don't always talk about.
Think of this like a collaborative exploration. We're having a conversation, like we're all sitting here together, and we want you to feel like you're right here with us. No question is too naive or too simple. Our goal is to break down these complex topics, make them clear, easy to digest. We'll use examples, analogies that hopefully make sense, making sure you really grasp the important stuff we're sharing, helping you navigate aging, actively and with confidence.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. It definitely feels like there are more older adults around in our communities, which is wonderful, really. More wisdom, more stories. But I do wonder, what does that actually mean for, well, for society as a whole? Is it just a feeling I have, or are the numbers really showing a big change?
That's a really sharp observation. And no, it's absolutely not just a feeling. We are definitely in the middle of a pretty profound demographic shift. It's like a quiet revolution that's reshaping the country. Just to give you some concrete numbers, back in 2023, there were roughly 59.2 million adults aged 65 and older right here in the U.S. Now, that number itself is pretty big, right? It's nearly 18% of the entire population. But here's the kicker. This isn't just a blip. This age group, it's projected to grow significantly, hitting 78.3 million Americans by the year 2040. So what does that mean? It means nearly 22%. Think about that. Almost a quarter of the entire U.S. population will be 65 or older.
Wow, almost a quarter. That's a massive number.
Yeah.
I don't think most people really grasp the scale of that. So it's not just, oh, people are living longer, which is great news, of course. It's a fundamental change in how our society is structured. What are the sort of broader ripple effects of that kind of shift?
Precisely. This growing older population, it's not just a statistic you file away. It's a genuine transformation. And it has really wide-ranging implications across, well, pretty much every sector imaginable. We're talking about fundamental adjustments needed in our healthcare systems, which, let's be honest, are already feeling the strain. It impacts the very structure of social programs, things like Social Security, Medicare. These were designed for a completely different demographic reality decades ago. And it directly affects the dynamics of our economy, too. Everything from who's in the workforce to consumer spending habits, even how we design our cities and towns. It really touches every single part of how our society functions. It demands we rethink how we support and, importantly, integrate older adults.
I've always had this image in my head, maybe from movies or something, that retirement means financial peace, time to relax, enjoy life. But lately, I keep seeing reports, articles suggesting it's not always that rosy picture. Are financial challenges a really big concern for older Americans, or is that maybe overblown?
That's a very common perception, almost an aspirational one, you could say. But the hard truth for millions of older adults, it tells a much tougher story. Financial stability is, without a doubt, a significant and often kind of hidden concern. The data. It's pretty sobering. About 14% of older adults are currently living in poverty, and here's where it gets even starker. That rate jumps dramatically, up to 35.6% for certain groups, particularly older Hispanic women who live alone. Just imagine trying to navigate your later years with that kind of constant economic pressure.
Wow, 35.6%. That's truly heartbreaking. It sounds like a hidden crisis for so many people.
Yeah.
What are the biggest financial drains they face? Is it mostly housing costs, or is there something else driving it?
Housing is definitely a factor, no question. But the pressure that often feels monumental, almost crippling for many, comes from healthcare costs. For adults 65 and older, their out-of-pocket healthcare spending. It jumped by a massive 41% between 2009 and 2019. It reached an average of, get this, $6,668 back in 2020. Now, to really understand that number, these costs make up 14% of older Americans' total spending. Compare that to the general population, where healthcare costs are only about 8.4% of total spending. And what's really startling, even shocking perhaps, is that this is happening even though 94% of this age group is covered by Medicare.
Right. So even with Medicare, that safety net so many people rely on, they're spending almost double the proportion of their income on healthcare compared to younger folks. That really highlights the immense financial strain, doesn't it? Even for those who have coverage.
It absolutely does. And what's particularly troubling, something the raw statistics don't always show, is the direct, tangible impact these costs have on people's daily lives. A pretty large number of older adults cope with these high healthcare costs by making incredibly difficult, often heartbreaking choices. We're talking about things like skipping necessary medical treatments, putting off important doctor's appointments, maybe not filling a prescription right away, or even cutting back on basic essentials, things like food or heating, just so they can afford their medications or required care. It's a terrible trade-off nobody should face.
So it's not just feeling the pinch financially, it's literally having to choose between basic needs and health. It's
Definitely.
awful. And then there's Social Security. So many people depend on it, but you always hear debates about its future.
Yeah.
How much does that actually help with this financial picture?
You're right to bring up Social Security. It is an absolute lifeline for millions. The average monthly retirement benefit from Social Security in January 2025 was estimated around $1,976. Now, when you think about the soaring healthcare costs we just talked about, all the other financial pressures, that amount, while absolutely critical for survival, often just isn't enough to provide real financial security or cover all the essentials. And if you look at the bigger picture, the fiscal landscape, there's something called the dependency ratio. It basically measures people 65 plus relative to the working age population, say 2064. Well, that ratio is expected to go over 40% by the year 2080. That's a huge jump from only 20% back in 2005.
So a growing number of retirees being supported by a relatively smaller group of working people, that sounds like a significant strain building up on our social systems, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and the projections really back that up, these trends. They lead to forecasts that by 2033, just over the horizon really, U.S. federal spending on programs for the elderly will actually equal the combined spending on education, R&D, transportation, and national defense. This isn't just about dollars and cents. It really highlights the massive, multifaceted impact of an aging population on our entire federal budget and ultimately our societal priorities.
So wrapping your head around all that,
Yeah.
what does it actually mean for daily life? It sounds like there's so much more to navigate than just, enjoying your golden years. Even beyond the money worries, what are some of those common, maybe sometimes overlooked daily challenges for older Americans?
You've really hit on a crucial point there. The financial side, as tough as it is just one layer. There's a whole broader spectrum of daily issues and wellness concerns that really impact quality of life. Beyond managing chronic diseases, which are definitely common, things like cognitive decline are a huge worry for many. Memory lapses, maybe trouble with tasks that used to be easy. And then there are other things, maybe less talked about, like bladder issues. Incontinence, for example, is quite common. It can be linked to chronic conditions, sometimes diet, or even conditions like advanced Alzheimer's, where someone might forget to use the restroom or not even realize they need to. These things often get overlooked in, public discussion, but they deeply affect a person's dignity, their daily comfort.
Oh, I can only imagine how difficult that must be. And isolating, too, both physically and emotionally.
Exactly. And that leads us right into what might be one of the most widespread and critical public health crises affecting older adults today: social isolation and loneliness. The numbers are pretty stark. 1 in 4 older adults say they're socially isolated, and a staggering 43% report feeling lonely. Now, this isn't just feeling a bit blue or missing company sometimes. Loneliness is directly, powerfully linked to lower mental and physical quality of life. Think about, say, Mrs. Henderson down the street. Maybe she used to love her weekly card game, but now getting around is hard. Her days get smaller, her social world shrinks. That's the real human cost of this sort of silent crisis. It leads to more stress, anxiety, depression, and can even contribute to faster cognitive decline.
That's a massive impact. And I guess things like maybe not being able to drive anymore or poor public transport, that plays right into feeling isolated.
Absolutely. Transportation barriers are a direct and often just insurmountable contributor to social isolation. When older adults have limited ways to get around, maybe due to physical limits, lack of good public transit, or they can't drive anymore, it seriously hampers their ability to, join community activities, visit friends, family, even get to doctor's appointments or the grocery store. It just compounds those feelings of loneliness and can really lead to a downward spiral of disengagement.
And what about how society itself views aging? Does that attitude play a role in how seniors feel or are treated?
Unfortunately, yes. Ageism and discrimination are also really significant and kind of insidious challenges. We can think about ageism in a few ways. There's interpersonal ageism, disrespectful comments, maybe being treated unfairly at work because of age. Then there's self-directed ageism, where people start to internalize negative stereotypes about their own age, leading to feeling less valuable. And then there's institutional ageism, systemic things like policies or norms that disadvantage older people, maybe lack of accessible buildings or age bias in hiring. All these forms, they have documented negative impacts on both mental and physical health. They increase stress, anxiety, and can actually reduce access to services and opportunities. It's a really pervasive and damaging bias.
It's clear it's such a complex issue, hitting so many parts of life. Much more than most of us probably think about day to day.
Indeed. We've just painted a pretty sobering picture of these challenges, haven't we? From money worries and daily health struggles to isolation and bias. So the really urgent question becomes, how do we shift? How do we move from just coping with aging to actually thriving? How can we truly empower older adults and ourselves as we age to hold on to independence, to maintain vitality? And maybe surprisingly, the answer starts not with some fancy medical breakthrough, but right in our own kitchens, with everyday choices like the fruit we choose to eat. This brings us to a surprisingly powerful, yet often really misunderstood, key to long-term vitality.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me and maybe a bit controversial for some listeners, I guess, because I've always heard that all fruits are healthy, well, nature's candy full of vitamins. So tell me, is it actually possible that some of these fruits could weaken my legs as I get older? Just sounds so counterintuitive, something I'd never even consider.
Right. That's a brilliant question, and honestly, one that many of our viewers are probably thinking about too, given how we usually think about fruit. You're absolutely right. Fruits are undeniably packed with essential vitamins, minerals, fiber, great nutrients. They're crucial for a healthy diet, no doubt. However, as our bodies change with age, our metabolism might slow down a bit, our digestive systems can get more sensitive, and importantly, how we process natural sugars can also change quite significantly. Some fruits, even the ones that seem perfectly healthy, might have effects we didn't anticipate, particularly when it comes to our leg strength, our balance, our overall mobility. It's a bit like a classic car, maybe. As it gets older, it might not run quite as efficiently or smoothly on the same type of fuel it used when it was brand new. So our goal in this part is to reveal some science-backed insights, which fruits maybe warrant a bit more caution, and importantly, what are some better alternatives that can actually help boost leg power and support your long-term health as a senior, helping you age actively, confidently.
That's quite a revelation. It really changes how I'll look at my fruit bowl from now on. Okay, so let's dive into these specific fruits. Starting with pineapple. I always thought pineapple was great because it has bromelain, right? Which is supposed to be good for inflammation, a real benefit.
That's a very common understanding. And you're absolutely correct that bromelain can have anti-inflammatory properties. That's definitely a plus, especially for joint health. However, pineapple also happens to be quite acidic, and it's relatively high in natural sugars, particularly fructose. Now, for older adults, especially maybe those with sensitive digestive systems or people who are carefully managing their blood sugar levels, that combination can sometimes be problematic.
How so? Can you explain the mechanism there? Like, how does that connect specifically to leg strength or feeling weaker?
Certainly. As we age, our bodies can become, let's say, more susceptible to the effects of rapid sugar absorption. When you eat a food high in natural sugars like pineapple, especially if you eat it by itself, it can cause a pretty quick and significant spike in your blood sugar. Now, over time, if you have frequent or really pronounced blood sugar spikes like that, it contributes to what we call systemic inflammation. That means inflammation throughout the entire body, not just in one spot. This chronic, sort of low-grade inflammation can directly impact various systems, including the tiny blood vessels that supply vital nutrients and oxygen to our leg muscles. If that circulation to the legs is subtly compromised by inflammation, or if the muscles themselves are kind of inflamed, it can lead to feelings of heaviness, fatigue, maybe stiffness, or just discomfort in the legs. And that translates directly into everyday activities that need leg strength, like getting up from a chair, walking for a while, climbing stairs feeling harder or more sluggish than they maybe should.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just the sugar itself, but how the body reacts to it, that whole inflammatory response that can end up affecting our mobility. Okay, what about bananas? Guilty, I have one almost every morning. So with bananas, is it really just the high sugar content again? Or is there something else going on? Because they're such a common healthy snack, it feels odd to think they could be an issue for mobility.
That's a great, very common habit. And you're right, bananas are super convenient and they do offer nutrients like potassium. Primarily, though, the concern with bananas for older adults does circle back to their relatively high sugar content, especially when you eat a whole one as a single serving. A medium banana can pack around 14, maybe 15 grams of sugar. If you eat it alone, particularly first thing on an empty stomach, it can lead to a pretty significant blood sugar spike. And, just like we discussed with pineapple, frequent blood sugar spikes contribute to that systemic inflammation throughout the body. This inflammation, over the long haul, indirectly impacts muscle strength, your overall energy levels, and general joint comfort. Think about how that might make everyday movements, like getting out of a chair easily or climbing stairs without feeling winded, feel harder, or just more sluggish. Your body's constantly working to regulate those sugar spikes, which can leave you feeling drained and actually impact the health of your muscle tissue over time.
It really is all connected, isn't it? Our bodies are such intricate systems. Okay, what about grapes? They seem so small, so innocent, often talked about as heart healthy. How could they be a problem?
Grapes are particularly interesting because, yes, their high sugar content, especially fructose, can definitely contribute to the general inflammation and blood sugar issues we've been talking about. But there's another unique concern with grapes for some people, one that's often overlooked: uric acid. You see, the fructose in grapes, when your liver metabolizes it, can actually produce uric acid as a byproduct.
Uric acid. That rings a bell. Isn't that strongly connected to gout, that incredibly painful joint condition?
Precisely. You've hit on a very important and often quite painful connection there. Gout is a type of inflammatory arthritis. It happens when there's too much uric acid in the body, and it forms these tiny needle-like crystals in the joints. It commonly hits the big toe, but it can also severely affect ankles, knees, even hips. It causes excruciating pain, swelling, redness, stiffness. All of those symptoms, they directly and severely impact leg function and mobility. So for people who are already prone to gout, or maybe just have borderline high uric acid levels, eating large amounts of high fructose fruits like grapes could potentially trigger a painful flare-up. And even for people without full-blown gout, consistently high uric acid can contribute to chronic joint discomfort, sort of a low-level inflammation over time. That makes movement more challenging and definitely less comfortable.
Right. So even if it's not a full gout attack, that underlying inflammation and discomfort could still be a real problem for getting around easily and just feeling good.
Yeah.
Okay, how about watermelon? It's so incredibly refreshing, especially when it's hot out. How could something that seems like mostly water be a concern?
Watermelon, while it's wonderfully hydrating and has beneficial things like lycopene, it actually has a very high glycemic index. What that means is its natural sugars get absorbed by the body really quickly, almost like drinking a sugary soda. Because it's got that high water content combined with natural sugar, it can lead to quick, significant blood sugar spikes. And those are often followed by an energy crash later. This rapid up and down really impacts your sustained energy levels through the day. And again, it contributes to that systemic inflammation that can affect muscle and joint health. It's really about how quickly the body processes that specific sugar load, not just the total amount of sugar. For someone trying to keep energy stable and inflammation down for joint comfort, those quick peaks and valleys can be pretty detrimental.
So it's not just the amount of sugar, but how fast it hits your system. That affects energy and inflammation. That's a really key distinction. Okay, next up, oranges. They're practically synonymous with vitamin C, right? Immune boosters. So how could they possibly be problematic?
You're absolutely right. Oranges are an excellent source of vitamin C, which is a vital antioxidant for immune health, definitely. However, they also contain a decent amount of natural sugar. And crucially, they are quite high in acidity. While vitamin C is great, for some seniors, especially maybe those with sensitive digestive systems or issues like acid reflux, that high acidity can cause irritation, discomfort in the stomach or esophagus. Now, that irritation can indirectly affect your overall comfort and digestion. And good digestion is key for absorbing nutrients efficiently. And you need proper nutrient absorption to support healthy muscle function and maintain energy. Plus, if you consume oranges in large quantities, say lots of orange juice, the sugar content can still contribute to those unwanted blood sugar fluctuations we've been talking about, adding to the inflammatory load. It really comes down to balance and individual sensitivity.
It really seems like there's always this delicate balance to strike, doesn't it? Considering all these different factors. Okay, what about green apples? I always thought they were the healthier apple choice, Usually lower in sugar than the sweeter red ones. A go-to for a lot of people.
That's a common perception, and generally speaking, it's true regarding their sugar content. Green apples often do have less sugar than many red varieties. However, with green apples, it's their high acid content that's the main concern for some older adults. For individuals who have sensitive digestive systems, maybe a predisposition to acid-related discomfort like acid reflux or GERD, the higher acidity in green apples might cause significant irritation. This might not just show up as stomach upset or heartburn. Some people actually report that it can exacerbate joint pain or stiffness, especially if they already have underlying inflammatory conditions or sensitivities to acidic foods. It just makes movement less comfortable.
So even if the sugar is lower, the acid itself can be a big factor. Wow, it's like a seesaw, isn't it? Trying to find that right balance for your own body.
Precisely. It really drives home the idea that what's generally considered healthy might need a second look as our bodies change with age. And while green apples are lower in sugar compared to some other fruits, eating them consistently every day, especially in large amounts, and maybe without pairing them with something else like some protein or fiber to buffer the sugar can still add up. That cumulative sugar intake can still impact blood sugar stability over time. It really is all about context, portion size, and your individual sensitivity.
Fascinating. Okay, and finally, mangoes. Oh dear, I have to admit I love mangoes. It's so sweet and tropical. What's the issue there?
Many people do. They are absolutely delicious, and they definitely offer various vitamins and fiber, no question. However, mangoes have a very high sugar content, really quite high. So while they offer those beneficial nutrients, their significant sugar load can be particularly tough for older adults to metabolize efficiently. This leads right back to the same issues we've discussed. Rapid blood sugar spikes, the subsequent inflammation, and how that can negatively impact leg strength, overall energy levels, and joint health. It can leave you feeling sluggish or contribute to existing discomfort. It truly is about moderation and really knowing what works best for your body now as your physiology changes. Maybe enjoying just a smaller portion, perhaps. Or pairing it with some nuts or yogurt to slow down that sugar absorption could be a gentler way to enjoy them.
Okay, so let me try to summarize this. These 7 fruits, pineapple, bananas, grapes, watermelon, oranges, green apples, and mangoes. It's not like they're inherently bad foods or that everyone absolutely must avoid them. But for seniors, specifically, because of things like their sugar content or acidity or maybe other compounds like the fructose in grapes leading to uric acid, they might contribute to issues like inflammation, blood sugar swings, or joint discomfort. And these things can indirectly affect leg strength, overall energy, and mobility.
Yeah.
Especially if you eat large amounts or if you have certain sensitivities already. Is that a fair, sort of nuanced way to put it?
Absolutely. You've captured the nuance perfectly there. It's really about empowering you, the listener, with knowledge to make informed choices. Understanding how your unique body processes these fruits as you age, that's the real game changer. It's about optimizing your diet for sustained energy, for reduced inflammation, and for better joint health, all to support your active lifestyle. And hey, if you found this information helpful today, please do let us know in the comments. You can just type KZ to say thanks to the Kaizen channel.
All right, so now that we know which fruits maybe require a bit more caution, and, importantly, why, what are some better fruit alternatives for seniors? Fruits that can actually help boost leg power and support overall health. Ones we can feel really confident adding to our shopping list.
Yes, this is the empowering part, the actionable takeaway. We can absolutely shift our focus to fruits that have scientifically recognized gentler impacts and really excellent nutritional profiles. For instance, berries, think strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, even blackberries. They are truly excellent choices, just fantastic. They have a significantly lower sugar content compared to many of the fruits we just talked about. And they are absolutely packed with antioxidants, which are crucial for fighting inflammation all through the body. This makes them wonderful for sustained energy and for reducing the kind of inflammation that can really affect muscles and joints.
Great. So perfect for a morning smoothie, maybe sprinkled on yogurt, or just as a simple, satisfying snack on their own.
Exactly. Another really excellent choice, especially if joint health is a concern, is cherries, particularly tart cherries. They are renowned for their potent anti-inflammatory properties. These properties are specifically linked to compounds called anthocyanins. Studies have actually shown they can be incredibly helpful for reducing joint discomfort and supporting overall mobility, which is obviously vital for leg function. Then there's avocado. Now, a lot of people think of it as a vegetable, but botanically speaking, it's a fruit. It offers healthy monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats that support overall health and, crucially, help stabilize blood sugar levels. This helps prevent those sharp spikes and crashes we discussed earlier, contributing to more consistent energy throughout the day.
Oh, I love avocado. And it's true, it feels very satisfying, keeps you feeling full for longer too.
It really does. Now, for something a little more tropical but still gentle, consider papaya. Papaya is often easier to digest for many people because it contains natural enzymes, like papain, which actually aid in protein digestion. It also has a more moderate sugar content compared to, say, a mango, making it a gentler option. And finally, pears are a wonderful choice. They provide a good amount of both soluble and insoluble fiber. This fiber is essential not just for digestive health, but importantly, it helps regulate sugar absorption. That leads to a more gradual, stable release of energy into your bloodstream. No big spikes.
So the takeaway isn't about cutting out fruit entirely or demonizing any specific food group. It's really about being smart, being mindful about which fruits we choose more often, maybe how we consume them, and really listening to our bodies as they change with age.
Absolutely, that's the core message. And the key actionable advice here always is portion control. That applies to all fruits, especially for anyone managing conditions like diabetes. Even these better fruits have natural sugars, so understanding your body's individual needs and how it responds is really paramount. Remember, small, consistent changes in your diet can lead to really significant long-term benefits for your mobility, your energy, and your overall well-being. We talked today about how great berries are, so if you like berries, let us know. Comment bees below.
You know, my mind feels a bit sharper just talking through all that fruit science. It really makes you think about how much our daily choices matter. And it got me wondering, beyond just what we put on our plate, what else can we actively do to keep our brains healthy? Sharp, engaged as we get older.
That's a crucial point, and it ties right back into that holistic approach to well-being we're talking about. Our brains, much like our bodies, really thrive on activity, on continuous engagement. There's strong scientific evidence showing that keeping your mind active significantly enhances longevity and cognitive function. Sometimes it even seems to defy what we used to think was inevitable cognitive decline. It's really about staying curious, actively challenging yourself. Take language learning, for example. It can be incredibly beneficial. There was a small study in 2019 looking at adults aged 59 to 79. It found that those who took part in a 4-month second language program actually showed measurable gains in their cognition, particularly in areas like attention and problem solving. And this builds on an earlier, compelling study from 2014. It reported that bilingual participants, even if they learned that second language later in adulthood, they maintained more cognitive abilities and seemed to experience a later onset of cognitive decline symptoms compared to people who only spoke one language.
Wow, so it really is never too late to try picking up a new language. Even just using an app or learning a few phrases a day, that's truly empowering to hear.
Exactly. And it's not just about formal academic stuff either. Engaging in creative skills can also be incredibly powerful for your brain health. There was a landmark study led by neuroscientist Denise C. Park looking at adults aged 60 to 90. One group learned demanding new skills, things like quilting or digital photography. They spent about 16 hours a week on it for 3 months. The findings? They were remarkable. These activities, which required focused attention and continuous learning, they actively added new knowledge and stimulated critical brain functions like working memory, episodic memory, reasoning. It showed that even complex creative hobbies can literally help rewire parts of your brain.
That's so encouraging. So hobbies aren't just for fun or passing the time. They're genuinely good for brain health, too. It's like a secret weapon against cognitive decline almost.
Precisely. And the importance of setting milestones and goals for your learning, that can't be overstated either. Think about that classic 2011 study on London taxi drivers. They have to learn something called the knowledge, which is basically mastering this incredibly complex network of 25,000 streets in London. It takes years of intense memorization. Well, those drivers who successfully passed this notoriously difficult exam, they showed a significant increase in gray matter volume in their posterior hippocampus. That's a brain region strongly linked to spatial memory. This study really highlights powerfully that setting clear, challenging goals and regularly stimulating your brain to reach them can make a tangible difference in your brain's structure and function, not just your memory.
That's a huge commitment, learning all those streets. But it makes sense that the brain responds to that kind of consistent, goal-oriented challenge. Are there other, maybe more practical hobbies that can offer similar cognitive benefits without needing quite that level of dedication?
Definitely. Simpler, more accessible activities also contribute significantly to brain health, absolutely. Jigsaw puzzles, for instance, they're fantastic for improving memory, attention span, and spatial reasoning you have to visualize and connect those pieces. Board games, too, classic ones like chess or checkers, or even more modern strategy games like Catan or card games like Bridge. They offer not only mental stimulation through strategy and problem solving, but also really valuable social interaction, which is another huge plus for brain health. Even video games can be incredibly beneficial. Games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, they promote strategic thinking, planning, and give emotional satisfaction. And active games like Wii Sports or some VR fitness games, they even get your body moving, adding a physical component too.
That's great news for anyone who enjoys gaming. It's definitely not just for kids anymore, is it? What about more formal learning paths for people who really want to dive deep into a new subject?
Oh, absolutely. For those interested in more structured learning, the digital age offers just abundant resources. You've got online platforms like Masterclass, where you can learn from world-renowned experts in various fields. Khan Academy offers high-quality lessons across tons of subjects, completely free. And sites like Udemy have countless courses on practical skills, everything from history to coding. And, for those who have expertise to share, even becoming an instructor or tutor yourself, maybe on platforms like Skillshare, can be incredibly rewarding. It reinforces your own knowledge while helping others learn. Lifelong learning, it's truly a continuous, adaptable journey. The opportunities today are practically boundless.
We've talked a lot about legs and mobility from the food perspective, and now keeping the brain sharp. But what about other ways to keep our bodies strong, flexible, just capable as we age? It feels like movement itself is just fundamental.
Excellent point. Beyond diet and keeping the mind engaged, consistent physical activity is absolutely a cornerstone for healthy aging. Engaging in regular movement is scientifically linked to slowing down the aging process at a cellular level and significantly improving overall physical and mental health. Take dancing, for example. It's not just fun, it's a wonderful physical activity that might actually slow cellular aging. One really compelling study linked dance, particularly learning new, complex routines, with positive changes in the hippocampus, that crucial brain region for memory and aging. Similar effects to what you see in endurance training, but dancing offers added benefits like improved balance, better coordination, and that all-important social interaction. The consistent challenge of learning new steps each week, whether it's jazz, line dancing, or square dancing, that might be what makes the difference, engaging both mind and body simultaneously.
So it's not just about moving, but about learning complex new movements, which ties right back into what we just talked about for brain health, too. It really is a mind-body connection, isn't it?
Exactly. A fantastic example of those synergistic benefits. Then you have gentle flowing exercises like Tai Chi and Qigong. These ancient practices, which are increasingly supported by modern medical research, emphasize gentle, continuous movements, controlled breathing, and mindfulness. They've been proven highly effective for improving balance, increasing flexibility, reducing the risk of falls, and promoting stress reduction. Their focus on slow, deliberate motion and internal awareness makes them perfect for enhancing physical serenity and mental calm.
Those always look so peaceful and graceful when you see people doing them. I can definitely see how they'd be good for balance.
They really are. And the benefits for fall prevention are very tangible. Yoga is another fantastic mind-body practice. It offers a wide range of benefits, increasing flexibility, building core strength, improving posture, promoting deep relaxation. And with so many styles available now, from very gentle restorative yoga to more dynamic vinyasa flow, there's truly a yoga approach for almost every fitness level and preference. It makes it really accessible for many older adults. And for those who prefer working out in water, water aerobics is just a refreshing, wonderful workout. The buoyancy of the water takes pressure off the joints, so it offers excellent cardiovascular exercise and resistance training in a remarkably low-impact way. It's ideal for individuals with arthritis or joint pain.
That sounds like a perfect option for anyone with joint concerns, letting them move more freely without the usual impact.
It absolutely is. And for something maybe a bit more competitive and definitely social, there's pickleball. This sport has just exploded in popularity. It's kind of a hybrid of tennis, badminton, and ping pong. It's fast-paced, incredibly fun, yet generally gentler on the joints than tennis. It's fantastic for cardiovascular exercise, hand-eye coordination, agility, and it provides this lively social atmosphere that's really taking communities by storm, fostering new friendships and healthy competition. All these options, they empower the body to stay strong, functional, and honestly, joyful.
It really seems like health isn't just about the physical body and the brain working well, but also about how we connect with others, our emotional well-being, that feels just as critical for having a truly vibrant life.
You've hit on a critical component there. We mentioned earlier that loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a pervasive and critical public health crisis among older adults. Remember those stark statistics. 1 in 4 older adults report being socially isolated, and 43% feel lonely. So, nurturing our spirit, cultivating strong social connections, it's just as vital as diet and exercise for overall health and longevity. Practices like mindfulness, which can include meditation, gentle yoga, or even just taking time to write in a journal, can significantly help reduce stress. This is particularly important because research indicates that the stress hormone, cortisol, tends to increase after middle age, and excess cortisol contributes to inflammation and other health problems. Mindfulness can help counter that.
So actively reducing stress through mindfulness can have a real, measurable physiological benefit, not just a mental one. That's powerful.
Absolutely. And for many people, interacting with pets can profoundly improve memory, boost energy levels, offer that unconditional companionship, and significantly reduce feelings of isolation and depression. Pets provide a sense of purpose, a routine. Beyond that, active community engagement is paramount. This means really making an effort to connect with friends and family, whether it's in person or online, through video calls and getting involved. Involved with community through classes, volunteering, maybe at community centers or faith organizations.
Like the local YMCA, maybe, with all the programs they often have for seniors.
Exactly. Organizations like the YMCA have shown real evidence-based success in improving health and wellness for older adults. They often partner with the CDC on things like diabetes prevention or fall prevention programs. They provide vital social hubs. And senior centers across the country, they play a critical infrastructure role. They provide essential support for aging in place, offering everything from nutritious meals and diverse social activities to fitness classes and educational workshops. This whole picture, getting adequate sleep, maintaining a positive mindset, achieving emotional balance, these are principles deeply valued by both modern scientific health wisdom and, interestingly, many traditional health philosophies too.
It sounds like it's really important for doctors and healthcare providers to be aware of this whole picture as well, right? Not just focusing on the physical symptoms someone presents with.
They absolutely should be, and thankfully the medical community is increasingly recognizing this. Primary care clinicians are now actively encouraged to discuss loneliness with their older adult patients, understanding its profound impact on overall health. They're also being tasked more with providing resources to help patients develop and maintain those meaningful social relationships, because it's truly preventative medicine for both mind and body.
You know, sometimes technology can feel a bit overwhelming, especially with how fast everything changes. But I've heard it can actually be a real game changer for seniors, helping with everything from just staying connected to tracking health, even improving safety at home.
You're absolutely right. Technology, far from being just an obstacle, can be an incredible tool for enhancing well-being and connection for older adults. And they are adopting it at really impressive rates. Get this. In 2023, a striking 89% of adults aged 50 and older owned a smartphone, and 59% owned a tablet. That shows pretty widespread integration of these devices into daily life already. We've also seen a significant jump in ownership of wearable technology, things like smartwatches, fitness trackers. It went from 28% in 2022 up to 34% in 2023.
So things like smartwatches are becoming much more common among seniors. That seems like a really good sign for health tracking, doesn't it? Letting them monitor their own health more easily.
Precisely. The embrace of health-related technology is very strong, and it keeps growing. 71% of older adults are currently using health tracking apps, monitoring everything from blood pressure to sleep patterns. 59% participate in online fitness classes. That shows a really proactive approach to their physical health. Many also extensively use telemedicine appointments for doctor's visits, and they're using digital mental health services too. This demonstrates that technology is directly supporting their health and wellness needs, often right from the comfort of their own homes. And beyond personal use, technology also provides really crucial support for caregivers. Things like GPS devices for tracking loved ones who might wander, motion sensors that can alert someone to a fall, and all those digital services for convenient food delivery, easy communication, online shopping, accessing medical assistance. They significantly help caregivers manage their loved ones' situations and ensure their safety and well-being.
That must be a huge relief for families and caregivers, enabling more independent living for longer. What about using technology for more creative outlets, or social ones, beyond just the practical applications?
Oh, there are fantastic and rapidly growing opportunities there too. For creative expression, think about podcasting, like what we're doing right now, or blogging. Vlogging these allows seniors to share their wealth of knowledge, their life experiences, their unique perspectives with potentially a global audience. It's a wonderful way to tell their stories, preserve legacies, and also combat isolation by connecting with others who share similar interests. And for social and competitive engagement, there's a growing, really vibrant trend of esports and video game tournaments specifically designed for seniors. These events offer competitive fun, mental agility challenges, and a strong sense of community connection, all in a dynamic, exciting setting.
Esports for seniors, that's fantastic.
Ugh.
Who knew
Yeah.
gaming could be such a powerful tool for social connection and keeping the mind sharp?
It's certainly a testament to the versatility and the inclusive nature of technology today. Looking ahead, there's already high awareness of smart home technologies among the 50-plus group. Things like voice-activated assistants, smart thermostats are becoming more common. While widespread adoption still has room to grow, this trend is likely to accelerate as these technologies become even more intuitive, especially as they get infused with more advanced artificial intelligence specifically designed to anticipate and meet seniors' needs, offering seamless support for daily living, from medication reminders to fall detection, even environmental controls like lighting and temperature.
So even if there's some skepticism out there about AI and all the new tech, the practical benefits for just enhancing daily life, for promoting independence, they seem pretty undeniable.
Absolutely. While a healthy dose of skepticism about emerging technologies is always wise, the practical benefits of technology for enhancing daily life, fostering connections, and promoting greater independence for older adults are truly undeniable at this point. It's really about leveraging these tools wisely, thoughtfully, and always with an eye towards improving quality of life.
Okay, navigating healthcare coverage.
Hmm.
It can be incredibly confusing, can it? Particularly when you start trying to figure out the differences between Medicare and Medicaid. What should seniors and their families really know about these programs? Especially when it comes to potential long-term care needs, which, as we know, can be incredibly expensive.
You're right, it is a labyrinth. And
Yeah.
understanding those crucial distinctions between Medicare and Medicaid for senior care is absolutely paramount. Let's try to break it down clearly. The single most important thing to remember right up front, and this is a really common misconception, is that Medicare generally does not cover long-term nursing home stays. This is a critical point.
Right.
It can lead to significant financial shocks for families down the road if they're not aware of this.
Okay, that's a huge point right there. One I think a lot of people probably get wrong. So if Medicare doesn't cover long-term care, what does it cover when it comes to nursing home care, and for how long?
Right. So Medicare can cover short-term nursing home or rehabilitative care, but only under very specific circumstances. Specifically, Medicare Part A, that's your hospital insurance, it covers up to 100 days in a Medicare-certified skilled nursing facility. But crucially, only after a qualifying hospital stay of at least 3 consecutive days. This coverage is really intended for recovery and rehabilitation, think after a stroke or a hip replacement, something like that. It's not for ongoing residential or custodial care where someone just needs help with daily living long term. Beyond that, Medicare Part B, your medical insurance that covers doctor visits and various therapies like physical, speech, or occupational therapy, even if you get those services while you're in the nursing home for that short-term qualifying period. And Medicare Part D, your prescription drug coverage, will cover the necessary prescription drugs you need during that qualified nursing home stay. But the bottom line is it's designed for recovery, not for long-term living arrangements.
Got it. So Medicare is really for that short-term rehab phase, kind of a stepping stone back home, hopefully. But Medicaid, that's the actual key for potential long-term support if you qualify financially and medically. That's a really critical distinction for families to understand when they're planning ahead.
Absolutely. When it comes to genuine long-term care needs, your state's Medicaid program is the one that may cover long-term nursing home stays. But as you said, you have to qualify based on specific financial and medical need criteria, which are often quite stringent, varying by state. Additionally, Medicaid can be instrumental in helping cover what are called home and community-based services, or HCBS. These are vital for enabling people to age in place in their own homes or communities. These services can include a range of supports, things like at-home personal care assistance, home-delivered meals, necessary home modifications like grab bars or ramps, and adult daycare programs. Depending on the individual's needs and the specific state regulations, Medicaid might also help cover services in an assisted living facility. It's worth noting, about 10% of all Medicaid beneficiaries are actually in the 65-plus age group. That really highlights how important Medicaid is for older Americans who rely on these critical health services, especially for long-term needs.
Okay, so if a nursing home does become necessary, which is always such a big emotional decision for families, how can someone possibly begin to choose the right one? It must feel incredibly overwhelming just sifting through the options.
It absolutely can be an emotionally charged and frankly daunting decision, no doubt about it. But there is an incredibly valuable, unbiased, and completely free resource available that can significantly help families make more informed choices. And that's the official Medicare website, medicare.gov. Care Compare. This federal website is really an essential tool. It allows you to search for and compare nursing homes that are Medicare certified. Now, being Medicare certified means they meet federal quality standards and have passed rigorous federal inspection, so it provides a baseline level of quality assurance.
What kind of practical, specific information can you actually find on that site that sounds incredibly helpful for doing your homework?
On medicare.gov, Care Compare, you can find a real wealth of information to help guide your decision. This includes things like a clear star rating for each facility. It goes from 1 to 5 stars. 1 means much below average quality, 3 is average, and 5 is much above average. These overall ratings are based on a combination of factors: health inspection results, staffing levels, and specific quality measures related to resident care. Crucially, you can also view detailed reports from health and fire safety inspections. These can reveal any significant deficiencies or past issues the facility might have had. The site also provides information on specific quality measures, things like, did residents receive their flu shots? Or does the facility have a high rate of residents developing pressure ulcers?
Staffing levels seem like they would be incredibly important for the actual quality of care someone receives day to day. Can you see that level of detail?
They are absolutely critical, yes. And the site provides crucial details about staffing levels. It shows the number of staff assigned per resident during the day, overnight, and on weekends. It also shows the average number of residents per nurse aide. This can give you a much better sense of the kind of individualized attention residents might actually receive. The site also provides transparency on any nursing homes that have unfortunately been cited for abuse and any penalties the federal government has issued against a facility. That's vital information, obviously. Now, beyond the online tools, it is absolutely vital to conduct in-person visits and ask very specific, targeted questions when you go.
Right. So when you're actually visiting a facility, what are some of those key questions people should be asking? Beyond maybe the obvious ones about cleanliness, what are the things people often overlook that really reveal the quality of care and life there?
Excellent question, because the details truly matter in this situation. When visiting, really focus on questions that get at the true nature of the care and the daily life for residents. Ask about patient-centered care. How does the nursing home help residents arrange transportation for their doctor visits? How do they truly involve residents in setting their own health goals? What rehabilitative services like physical, occupational, or speech therapy are actually provided on site? For safety and medication, inquire specifically about their policy on avoiding the use of antipsychotic medications whenever possible. These carry significant health risks, especially for elderly individuals with dementia, and should only be used when absolutely necessary. Also, ask how they prevent residents who might be prone to wandering from getting into unsafe areas.
Those are really crucial things you might not even think of if you're not already immersed in the healthcare field. What about things like fees and the residents' personal life and autonomy within the facility?
Absolutely critical aspects. Regarding fees and payment, you need to confirm very clearly whether they accept Medicare and/or Medicaid. And insist on getting a clear, itemized list of exactly which services are included in the private pay rate versus those that are charged separately. You don't want any surprises later. For resident preferences, which are key to quality of life and maintaining dignity, ask, can residents bring some of their own furniture and decorations to make their room feel like home? Is there a secure place where they can lock up personal belongings? Do residents have any choice regarding roommates? And crucially, ask how the nursing home respects individual preferences for daily routines. Things like, when do they want to get up? When do they prefer to go to sleep, eat meals, or shower, or bathe? Maintaining that autonomy, even within a structured environment, is just vital for well-being. And always, always ask how concerns or complaints are handled. What's the formal process? Who is the specific person residents or families should talk to?
And dining. I imagine that's such a huge part of daily life and comfort. It could probably make or break someone's entire experience there.
It truly is, and it often reflects the overall quality of life in the facility. For dining, you need to inquire about the options available and the actual food choices at every meal. Is there variety? Is it appealing? Ask how they accommodate special dietary needs, like low salt or no sugar added diets. How do staff actually help residents eat and drink at mealtimes if assistance is needed? Ensuring they receive adequate nutrition is fundamental. Also, ask those important practical questions. Is there a policy about bringing in outside food and drink from family visits? Are healthy snacks available 24/7, and what kinds? Is there a microwave and maybe a refrigerator available for resident use? These seemingly small details, they significantly impact daily comfort, independence, and overall well-being.
Okay, so given all these challenges, the financial strain, the complexities of choosing care, this really raises an important question, doesn't it? What's the broader role of community support in helping seniors avoid needing institutional care for as long as possible, if that's what they want? It seems like that should be the ideal we strive for.
That's a vital connection to make because the reality is the U.S. senior care industry, in many aspects, is under immense strain. I might even use the word broken in some respects. The cost of institutional care is just staggering. Back in 2020, the average annual cost for a private room in a nursing home was over $105,000. Now, that's nearly twice the average cost of receiving care at home or within the community. This huge financial difference immediately underscores why in-home and community-based options aren't just preferences for many families, they're economic necessities.
Wow. That puts an immense, often just unsustainable burden on families then, doesn't it? It really explains why so many people are struggling to figure this out.
It absolutely does. And get this, the vast majority of care for older adults in the U.S. is actually provided by unpaid family members and community members. We're talking about this huge, often invisible workforce of around 65 million people acting as caregivers. They contribute an astounding billions of hours of labor every single year. The estimated economic value of that unpaid care, around $375 billion per year. This often leads to caregivers experiencing significant financial strain themselves. Sometimes they have to cut back on their own living costs or even leave their jobs entirely just to provide that necessary support for their loved ones. And even for the professional, paid caregivers, the situation is often incredibly challenging. They frequently earn minimum wage or just slightly more, often with few or no benefits despite the arduous emotional and physical toll of the work. It's a fundamental paradox. Society relies heavily on them, but often fails to properly support them.
It really sounds like a system under extreme strain, doesn't it? On every single level, from the person needing care to the family caregiver to the professional caregiver.
It truly is. And one of the largest systemic issues facing the senior care industry right now is a significant lack of staffing. It's across the board in facilities and home care agencies. This directly leads to many seniors not being able to access the in-home care they might prefer simply because local agencies are short-staffed or they have restrictive requirements. For example, some agencies might require a 2-hour minimum visit, even for a relatively simple task like helping someone get in or out of bed safely. This makes it difficult for seniors to get just the specific level of care they need without unnecessary expense, and it often forces families into more expensive, less preferred options like moving someone to a facility sooner than they'd like.
So if institutional care is so incredibly expensive and formal home caregiving is understaffed and often hard to access flexibly, where do we turn? What's the fundamental solution here for really supporting aging in place?
This is precisely where the critical role of having a robust community infrastructure comes into play. Infrastructure that genuinely supports healthy aging and enables what we call aging in place. Programs like those funded under the Older Americans Act, OAA, are absolutely essential. They provide funding for vital services like nutrition programs, Meals on Wheels, congregate dining, transportation assistance, caregiver support programs, legal aid, and more. These services help individuals avoid unnecessary and often much more expensive institutional care by making those home and community-based services more accessible and affordable. There's also a growing focus, thankfully, on creating communities that are truly livable for people of all ages, thinking about accessible public spaces, safe sidewalks, good lighting, and increasingly developing dementia-friendly communities that integrate support and understanding directly into daily life, making it easier for individuals with cognitive impairments and their families to navigate their surroundings safely and feel included.
So things like affordable, accessible transportation and suitable housing options, those are really foundational elements for this to work.
Exactly. Affordable, accessible, and appropriate transportation options, as well as safe and adaptable housing options. These are always in incredibly high demand, but often severely lacking in adequate funding. This creates significant barriers to independence and community engagement for older adults and also people with disabilities. Resources for home modifications and repairs are also crucial. Things like installing ramps, widening doorways for walkers or wheelchairs, updating bathrooms with grab bars. These enable seniors to remain safely and comfortably in their own homes for as long as possible. But again, these programs are perpetually in high need with often limited availability.
It really sounds like a truly holistic approach is needed, doesn't it? one that deeply considers the individual's choices and needs, the family's vital but often unpaid role, and the broader community's infrastructure and support systems. It's such a complex puzzle to solve.
And what's fascinating here when you step back is how all these seemingly disparate pieces connect. Everything from our very personal daily diet choices, like the fruits we spent time discussing, right up to broad societal structures, the economics of caregiving, and those essential community resources. All of these factors interact in really profound ways. They can either enable or hinder healthy aging and independence. It's truly a multi-layered challenge, yes, but it's also a tremendous opportunity for us to do better, demanding a coordinated effort across society to ensure older adults can not just survive, but truly thrive in their later years.
Wow. This deep dive has covered so much vital ground today, hasn't it? We started by really trying to understand that complex picture, the demographics, the finances, the often hidden social landscape of aging in America, recognizing the huge shifts happening and the daily challenges so many people face. Then we dug into those truly surprising, maybe even counterintuitive truths about how some common fruits can actually impact senior mobility and joint health. And importantly, what healthier alternatives are out there that can genuinely boost your vitality.
We then broadened our view quite significantly, didn't we? Embracing the profound benefits of a truly holistic approach to well-being. We emphasized the power of lifelong learning to keep the mind strong, the importance of diverse physical activities to empower the body, the necessity of nurturing social connections for the spirit, and finally, embracing technology as an incredibly powerful and evolving tool for both connection and health management.
And we rounded it all out by navigating that intricate and often really confusing world of senior care and support systems, demystifying Medicare and Medicaid, highlighting those critical differences, and guiding you through how to approach choosing a nursing home if that step becomes necessary. Our core message throughout, I think, has really been one of empowerment, making informed choices, and believing in the profound potential for a vibrant older age. That holistic approach again, it really does all work together, doesn't it? This has been incredibly enlightening for me, filled with so many insights I honestly hadn't considered before. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers have too. And we'd love to hear from you. If you found this information helpful today, please let us know in the comments section below. You can simply type KAZ just to say thank you to the Kaizen channel. We listed those 7 fruits to maybe be a bit more cautious about as a senior, explaining the reasons why. Which one surprised you the most? Whether the grapes and the uric acid connection? Or maybe the green apples because they seem so healthy. Comment its name below, we're curious.
It's my genuine pleasure. The whole goal of Kaizen is really to provide clear, actionable information that makes a real difference in the lives of our viewers. And I'm sure many of you watching at home are already thinking a little differently about your own fruit choices right now, aren't you? You know, as our society continues to age, the insights we've shared today, they aren't just about individual health choices, really. They raise an even broader, maybe more important question for all of us. What kind of future are we as a society building for older adults? Is it one that merely copes? Or is it one that truly prioritizes holistic well-being, that supports independence through smart choices and robust community systems, and that genuinely leverages the immense wisdom and experience that comes with age? What are your experiences with fruit and joint health? We'd love to hear your stories below. Or tell us, are there any other dietary concerns specific to seniors that you'd like us to cover in future deep dives? Let us know.